Part 104. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1031. As soon as this voice sounded, it was echoed by many people. After all, they were all human beings from the original star. They thought they were superior and naturally did not want to let a human being from the outside world step on their heads. For a while, the voices of opposition rose one after another, and in the end they actually formed a neat slogan. Hearing the voices of the crowd, Emperor Haoshan frowned and wanted to step forward to speak. With his reputation in the army, it was not difficult to suppress the riot. As long as he stood in front and shouted a few times, the people below would naturally quiet down. However, Haoshan's body just took a step and was blocked by the instructor. Then, the expressionless instructor walked forward and looked down. With the appearance of the instructor, the riot below gradually subsided, and all eyes were focused on the instructor, wanting to see what he would say next. After the instructor's eyes patrolled the bottom, his body suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he was standing in front of the person who had shouted the most happily just now. This person was also the first person to shout out opposition just now. Huang Qinglin. Are you questioning my qualifications? The instructor had no expression on his face and asked calmly. Attack me. If your attack can hit me, I will leave immediately. The guy called Huang Qinglin by the instructor shuddered under the pressure of the instructor, and shook his head without thinking. I am not a combatant, I will not fight with you. Not a combatant? Then what does my appointment have to do with you? Do you have the qualifications to object? The instructor continued to ask calmly. He just found out that this guy was instructed by someone to shout out his opposition so quickly, and also led a large number of people. As for why the instructor knew this person's name, long before coming here, the instructor had stored all the information of the people of the original star in his own consciousness core. In terms of memory, I am afraid that many human beings will not be the opponent of the devourer, because they can directly copy all the information and store it in their own consciousness core. Hearing the instructor's words, Huang Qinglin subconsciously glanced at the person next to him, then lowered his head and remained silent. Since it has nothing to do with you, but you took the lead in opposing it, now give me a reason, otherwise, I will think that you are deliberately making trouble, deliberately provoking, and destroying the unity of the human race. Li Yingning did not let Huang Qinglin go just because he admitted his defeat, but said. As for what kind of punishment this crime will get now, the human emperor has already made it very clear just now. Hearing Li Yingning's words, Huang Qinglin trembled all over. He could not imagine that he would bear such a serious crime just because he shouted a sentence according to the instructions of that person. He raised his head and looked at Li Yingning. The calm expression on Li Yingning's face actually made Huang Qinglin feel a huge fear in his heart. For some reason, Huang Qinglin suddenly felt that if he didn't give an explanation that would satisfy the instructor might really kill him. It's him. Huang Qinglin pointed at a person behind him. He told me to shout. Before this meeting, he had told me to do everything according to his orders. I have a handle in his hand, so I have to do it? You lied. I didn't ask you to shout against it. You framed. The guy pointed out by Huang Qinglin opened his mouth to explain, but he was stared at by the instructor's sharp eyes just halfway through, and he couldn't say anything anymore. Reason. The instructor looked at this guy, ignored his explanation, and directly spit out two words. Looking at the instructor's eyes, the guy couldn't help but panic and retreated involuntarily. If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. I don't have that much time to waste with you. The instructor said softly, and then his body suddenly disappeared in the guy's infinitely terrified eyes. Ah! Puff! The two voices sounded almost at the same time, and the instructor's figure appeared strangely on the rostrum. At this time, Huan Qinglin was covering his right shoulder with a pale face. His right arm had been cut off, and the scream was also made by him. As for the guy who ordered him just now, he has become a headless corpse, without even the chance to scream. Listen up. We only have 17 years to prepare, and then we will enter the endless road. This is related to whether the entire human race can continue, so we have no time to waste. The instructor who returned to the rostrum said directly to the loudspeaker. From today on, all human races, no matter what you did before, you must accept my training, and then I will decide whether you are a combatant. Of course, you can also pretend that you are not good enough during training and be eliminated by me, but you must remember that this endless road is a crisis for our human race, and also an opportunity for our human race. We only face two paths: reach the top, stand at the top of the world, and from then on, the human race will become the most powerful race in the entire world. If we fail, we will all be wiped out, and the human race will disappear from this world. At this time, if you are not of any help to the human race and are even holding the human race back, then, there is no need for us, the human race, to bring you into the endless tower. Because you all know that the failure of our human race in the endless tower is based on the proportion of the number of people killed. Therefore, those of us who enter the endless road this time must have contributed to the human race. No, we won't take anyone in. Because not only does he have no contribution, but once he dies, he will increase our death statistics. Therefore, such people will be left outside. But a human standing under the rostrum asked with some trepidation. Didn't that voice say that any human race would be transported to that endless road? How could you leave people outside? Li Yingning looked at that person, and then a sneer suddenly appeared on his face without any warning. Dead people will not be transported to the endless road. Li Yingning's words made everyone below feel chills in their hearts, because what he meant was very simple. If you are proven to have made no contribution to the human race's endless journey, then, you will be mercilessly killed. Is this a bit too ruthless? Although the man below had a face full of fear, he still said bravely. The people of our home planet are all ordinary people, not new humans. Their combat power is definitely incomparable to yours. Do you want to kill all the ordinary people? Of course not. The instructor shook his head, then spoke directly to the loudspeaker and said to everyone. Whether you are a combatant or not, as long as you are willing to contribute to the human race, you will definitely be able to find a position that suits you. And what I am talking about is just like the person I just killed, for the sake of his own selfish desires, without understanding the situation. People who make trouble secretly. As an instructor, I must have touched some of his interests, so he would directly make people oppose him and do small tricks behind his back. From today on, all those who like to do small tricks secretly, create chaos, and disrupt order will be discovered. There is only one word: kill. If you have any doubts about my ability to serve as chief instructor, you can raise it directly in person now. If you can prove that I am not suitable, or there is a better candidate, I will quit immediately. After the instructor said this, he waited quietly for a while. Sure enough, someone stood up below. It was a new human warrior from the original star. He asked loudly, "Mr. Instructor, do you have any experience in training an army? I admit that your strength is extremely strong, but it does not mean you can train a strong army because of your own ability." Kindness. The instructor nodded and looked at the soldier. Wei Jianyang, from the original star, is the captain of the 12th Squadron of the 5th Brigade of the 4th Legion. You are right. I will give you the answer to such a question. Then, the instructor pointed to the 8 space battleships that came into the sky after they arrived. 5 from the Hope Empire, plus the 3 from the Renaissance Alliance, were also taken over by Wang Feng. Among these battleships are the Hope Expeditionary Force of the Hope Empire. You did not participate in the battle between the Hope Expeditionary Force and the Cosmic Ghost Clan on the original star, but have you seen their battle videos? The instructor asked Wei Jianyang. Saw it? Wei Jianyang replied loudly, joking. In the first few days of the battle between the Hope Expeditionary Army and the Space Ghost, there were 0 casualties. This kind of record was much better than their army, especially the Hope Expedition at that time. Army, in terms of personal strength, is still much lower than their soldiers. So they watched the original battle video countless times, trying to learn some experience from it. Moreover, almost every human race on the original star had watched that video. They don't know the performance of the Hope Expeditionary Force at that time, but in the army, all the soldiers have only 2 words to comment on it: abnormal. Therefore, when the instructor asked this question, Wei Jianyang answered quite happily. After hearing Wei Jianyang's answer, the instructor raised his arm and made a gesture. Then, a figure suddenly appeared in the air and landed in front of Li Yingning. His body stood straight and he saluted with a military salute. Instructor. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1032. Kindness. The instructor nodded slightly, then turned to the people below. You should all know him, right? This kid seems to be quite popular on the home planet these days. The person who came to the instructor was of course Wang Feng. When he first came to his home planet, few people knew Wang Feng. After all, although Wang Feng was quite capable of causing trouble, at least he had never been in the media. However, during this period, he, Xiao Wu and Qiu Jian were known to everyone on the home planet. Killing more than 12,000 new humans in a week, and being able to escape unscathed every time, rarely hurting others. This kind of strength can no longer be described as powerful, it is simply abnormal and terrifying. Of course, the new humans on the original star have an unforgettable memory for Wang Feng and the other 3, because the people Wang Feng and the others killed were the people on their side. So of course they knew Wang Feng. To put it more exaggeratedly, they all knew Wang Feng when he turned into ashes. However, because the Hope Empire had a good reputation on the home planet before, and the people they killed were all new humans from the original star, and those people on the home star originally hated the new humans, so Wang Feng their killings not only did not disgust the humans on their home planet, but they were quite grateful to him. Therefore, after the instructor's words came out, among the crowd below, the humans from the home planet cheered, as if Wang Feng was their great hero. This boy is the actual controller of the Hope Empire and the supreme leader of the Hope Expeditionary Force, and I am his instructor. Almost everyone in the Hope Empire has received my training, and the Hope Expeditionary Force is those who have received my training and all done man. Now, do you think I am qualified to be your chief instructor? The instructor looked at Wei Jianyang and asked in a calm tone. Have. Wei Jianyang stood at attention and then gave a military salute. Kindness. The instructor nodded and then asked. Who else has questions? This time, everything was quiet below, and no one raised any objections. In terms of personal strength, the instructor had just demonstrated his skills. His almost teleportation skills made it impossible for them to see how the instructor made a move or the arm, and how the head left its owner. Needless to say, the Hope Expeditionary Force trained by the instructors is obviously a group of guys whose personal strength is not as good as theirs. When they work together, they exert a combat power that far exceeds theirs. This is naturally enough to prove the instructor's training ability. In fact, the movement technique that the instructor showed before was not close to teleportation, because it was teleportation, because Xianyuan space originally only had the laws of space, and the instructor was a devourer. He had been sealed in it for more than 10 years, and he actually swallowed it. Some space laws were discovered, which made the instructor inexplicably control some space laws. Especially since the instructor directly swallowed up the space law, the instructor even surpassed Wang Feng in using the space law. At least, when the instructor initiates teleportation, he consumes at least 10 times less energy than Wang Feng. Seeing that no one objected to the appointment of the instructor as the chief instructor of the human race, Fuxi stepped forward again, and the instructor returned directly to his previous position. As for Wang Feng, he stayed with Fu 11 because his appointment was next. Subsequently, Fuxi announced the appointment of Wang Feng as the first commander of the human military, and Hao Shen as the second commander. No one from below came forward to oppose this appointment. One is that the bloody lessons of the two guys before are still there, and the other is that although Wang Feng and his Hope Expeditionary Force are not large in number, their strength now far exceeds them. The strength of an ordinary soldier, they were actually able to stand shoulder to shoulder with Hao Shen, leaving them with absolutely no confidence to oppose. No matter at any time, the strong have enough say, not to mention that even Hao Shen, the highest military officer of the human race, did not have any opinions and calmly accepted his appointment. How could they have the right to object? Next, Fuxi successively appointed many positions. These positions were all studied in advance when Wang Feng and the other three killing gods were clearing out the people on the list. The people appointed include both those from the Hope Empire and those from the original star. Even the natives of the home planet, many have entered the leadership after the complete integration of the human race. In this way, everyone is happy, and with the 8 space battleships floating in the sky, it is obvious that they are not here to make soy sauce, so the subsequent appointments are basically without any disturbance. After that, Fuxi announced some new regulations after the integration of the human race, and selected 20,000 people from the Hope Expeditionary Army as a law enforcement team, led by Lu Feng. From now on, if anyone violates the new rules of the human race, he will be warned for the first time and killed for the second time. If there are serious circumstances, then he will not even get a second chance and will be killed directly. Fuxi made it very clear that troubled times require heavy codes. Although they are not in troubled times now, it is a critical moment for the survival of the human race. Therefore, they don't have time to deal with criminal laws and the like now. Besides, sentencing is no longer suitable for human beings. If you sentence him to 20 years, will you be able to lock him up? The endless road has been opened, and everyone has entered it. Maybe he will deliberately die out of resentment and use his own life to take revenge on the human race. Regarding Fuxi's decision, the natives of the home planet had no objections at all, and were even quite happy, because the laws promulgated by Fuxi were aimed at all human races, that is to say, those new humans, we can no longer bully them at will in the future, otherwise, it will destroy the unity of the human race, and the law enforcement team has the right to kill them on the spot. Hearing Fuxi's appointment of Lu Feng, the guys at Hope Base suddenly snickered secretly. It seems that the name Bloody Hand Butcher will soon be known on the home planet, and even resound throughout the sky. And those humans from the original star did not express any opinions, because they seriously doubted whether their opinions would be adopted. They originally wanted to fight for themselves. After all, the strong should have preferential treatment from the strong. But when they thought about the soldiers of the Hope Expeditionary Force, they gave up their thoughts, because when it comes to the strong ones, those perverts are the real strong ones. Fuxi said a lot this time, almost everything about the human race in the future, said it all at once. With the support of Dong Huangtai, and the 8 cosmic battleships eyeing the sky, many people had no opinions even if they had them. Dare to speak out, so this public meeting of the entire human race was obviously a success. This is a suggestion put forward by Wang Feng. This is an extraordinary period for the human race. If the method discussed by everyone is used to vote, Wang Feng is sure that when the endless road opens, they will not be able to come up with a set that everyone is satisfied with. Development plan comes out. After all, the interests of too many people are involved, and everyone wants to strive for greater benefits for themselves. In the history of mankind, there are too many examples of time being wasted and opportunities missed due to conflicts of interest. After Wang Feng put forward this opinion, Fuxi also agreed. The parliament of his home planet at that time really made Fuxi feel very painful, so Fuxi did not recommend discussing with those people. Now on the home star, there are actually three parties: the natives of the home star, the new humans from the original star, and them from Atlantis. Therefore, it is basically impossible to take everything into account, so we simply force it, discuss the development plan of mankind in advance, and then directly announce that anyone who dares to attack will be directly suppressed. Although it is impossible for Fuxi to massacre his own people for no reason, he will never be polite if someone takes the initiative to hit his gun. The three emperors of the human race are not good people. Once anyone dares to do something that harms the interests of the human race, if something happens, they will kill him mercilessly, and even uproot his influence to avoid future troubles. After the meeting, all the people who had been appointed went to the Great Hall to allocate and determine the scope of their work. Of course, these matters can be discussed by everyone. Always give you a direction, and then you think about the past. As for which path you took, it's up to you, as long as the results can achieve your goals. While the meeting was going on, Wang Feng suddenly went to find the Mars trio. These three guys didn't get any tasks because Duan Lei mentioned to Wang Feng that the three of them should go on a task. Xing, and Hao Shui and Li Fei. You three come with me. Wang Feng gently patted Mars on the shoulder and whispered. The Martian trio turned around and saw that it was Wang Feng, so they all followed Wang Feng out of the auditorium. What's going on, Brother Feng? As soon as they left the auditorium, Husking asked excitedly. Just now, the three young boys were depressed because they had not been appointed by Fuxi. They thought it was because the three of them behaved too badly and always quarreled, so that's why I wasn't selected. At this time, I couldn't help but be excited when I heard that I also had a mission. Tomorrow, you will take 10,000 Hope Expeditionary Force soldiers and return to Atlantis. Wang Feng said. I'll dial the Fuxing number to you. And from now on, the Fuxing number will be commanded by the three of you. The Renaissance is one of the three space battleships left behind on the home planet, and it is also a flagship-level space battleship. After hearing Wang Feng's order, the Martian trio looked at each other, and then Martian said in embarrassment. Brother Feng. There are nearly 10 million survivors in Atlantis. Just, kill them all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1033. Bang. After hearing what Mars said, Wang Feng couldn't help but feel angry and funny, and slapped Mars on the head. Who the hell asked you to kill them? I meant to ask you to bring them back. Bring them to the home planet, and then participate in training. Because the current survivors of Atlantis will definitely be transported to the Endless Road when the Endless Road opens in the future, then if they die, they will naturally be counted among the number of casualties. Therefore, Wang Feng and the others discussed for a long time before they decided to send someone to pick them up and participate in training together. After all, these 10 million people are all new humans with strength above the enhancer level. At least it's much better than ordinary people on the home planet. As for the character of those people, although it is not very good, at least they are afraid of death. As long as they are afraid of death, it is easy to tell them the truth directly. Once too many people die, everyone will die together. In this way, they are considered don't dare to be evil, because that will only kill yourself. Take it over. After hearing that they were not asked to kill people, Mars and the others were relieved, because they knew that the remaining people in Atlantis were not well received by Wang Feng and the others. When they left, they were not taken away. Since they are going to pick up people, there is no problem. Moreover, their Mars trio will actually have their own space battleship in the future? It's majestic just thinking about it. After sending away the Martian trio, Wang Feng looked at the venue, then shook his head and left. Now there is basically nothing for him in the venue. The monsters from the land of God's punishment in Xianyuan space are, Wang Feng has handed over all the corpses, and they are under the control of the instructor. Because in the following training, the instructor will select as many people as possible who are suitable for combat among these people. From the instructor's point of view, it is absolutely clear which people are worthy of training and which ones are not. Therefore, the instructor is entirely responsible for the selection of combatants. Next, Wang Feng's main task is to bring Lu Wanting together to find a quiet place to study together. Of course, what they are studying together is not to train the next generation and face the wall. What Wang Feng wants is to let Lu Wanting help her design the willow tree, because the willow tree can now change its own structure, and its body can last until at its limit, it is extremely huge. Coupled with the protection of those mutated bees, this willow tree can become a solid fortress on the endless road in the future, used to protect ordinary people who have little fighting ability. Although Wang Feng has the ability to turn ordinary people into enhancers, the base of ordinary people on the home planet is too large. Billions of ordinary people may not be enough to exhaust the life energy stored by Wang Feng. Besides, no one knows what will happen in the endless tower. Therefore, Wang Feng does not dare to take such risks now. Moreover, those ordinary people have no combat experience at all. Even if they become enhancers, they cannot step into the battlefield at all. Therefore, some of them will definitely be strengthened, but the specific candidates will be decided by the instructors. In the following days, Wang Feng ignored other things and concentrated on helping the willow tree design its main trunk shape with Lu Wanting, and also took into account the location of the mutated bees. The instructor's training also officially started. Because of the previous instructor's words, no one participating in the training, whether ordinary people or new humans, dared to be lazy. Instead, they gritted their teeth and persevered. Because they know that if they can't survive now, they will probably be given up as useless people. At that time, no one will speak for them, because they will drag down everyone. When truly facing life and death, everyone is selfish. A dead Taoist friend is not a poor Taoist. This is a truth that can never be overturned. Therefore, this has now led to a very strange phenomenon, that is, Li Yingning's training on his home planet is more stringent than when he was in Atlantis, but the proportion of people who successfully pass the instructor's standards but it has improved a lot than before, actually reaching about 70%. It seems that when faced with life and death, human potential can finally be unleashed. In fact, it does not mean that those who fail to pass the training will be given up. Wang Feng and the others cannot be as cruel as the evil Dong Huang. In order to successfully reach the top, they will kill all ordinary people before entering the endless road. If that were the case, there would be no need for human beings to exist. Although this situation should be considered very good, after all, the more people who can fight, the more opportunities the human race has to climb to the top of the endless tower, but Wang Feng is now quite depressed. The reason is very simple. His life energy is not enough. Duan Lei and the others held several meetings to discuss this matter, and finally decided to upgrade those people to the level of first-level enhancers, and then equip them with thermal weapons. As the second echelon of combat troops, it is mainly used for defense. Now the mother planet is in full swing, and all resources are used to produce weapons and ammunition. In addition, there are dedicated people responsible for preparing food. Large amounts of food are constantly being hoarded, and then loaded into Xianyuan space by Wang Feng. It must be said that the role of Xianyuan space is really quite powerful. If there is no such space, the supply alone would be enough to give the human race a headache, not to mention that during the battle, their supplies are always facing the enemy's sneak attack. Cutting off the enemy's food and grass is something that military strategists of all generations like to do very much. However, now with Xianyuan space, the human race can go into battle lightly. All they carry are weapons and ammunition. The tents, beddings, and heavy weapons for the march are all in the charge of Wang Feng, which undoubtedly enhances the combat endurance of the troops. Because they can replace the things that they originally had to carry that were not related to the battle with weapons and ammunition. 3 years later, Mars and his team also returned smoothly. They did not encounter any trouble. After all, in the outer universe, there are only human beings as intelligent creatures now. Even if they want to have an accident, it is not easy, unless it is estimated that driving a warship to crash into a planet is almost the same. After hearing what Mars said about the whole story, the survivors of Atlantis boarded the spaceship without hesitation. Some of them even wanted to stay, but they were killed on the spot. In their words, if they didn't receive training, they would die in the endless road in the future, and it would also implicate themselves. It would be better to die early so that others could rest assured. Seeing their actions, Mars and his people were very skeptical. Was it right or wrong for them to pick up these people? Would it be better to kill them all directly? Of course, Mars and his people were just thinking about it. Mars and his people would definitely not be able to massacre nearly 10 million people. After sending these people directly to a continent specially opened up for training on the mother planet, these survivors from Atlantis also began to receive training from instructors. When they learned the consequences of failing the training, they were all as excited as if they had been injected with chicken blood. The final passing rate was as high as 95%. Wang Feng, Du Enlai, and others were quite shocked to see this data. Finally, Du Enlai said, "It seems that selfish and fearful people can burst out greater potential when facing death. At least, we don't have to worry about them dragging us down when we are on the endless road." Du Enlai's words were agreed by everyone present. The pattern of the willow tree was finally completed. After nearly 4 years of design by Lu Wanting, the current shape of the willow tree made everyone admire it. The current willow tree is simply a green fortress. The area it occupies is almost comparable to the Green Water Garden in Atlantis, and its height is far higher than that of the Green Water Garden. Wang Feng nodded with satisfaction. No one could have thought that the willow tree that he accidentally conquered when he salvaged the turtle's body by the Black Dragon Bridge had grown to this extent. Unfortunately, if this willow tree had space attributes, it would be even more ideal. However, even now, Wang Feng is already quite satisfied. At least at the critical moment, this willow tree can help him protect those ordinary people. In addition, those who use thermal weapons can assist in defense under the tree, and the mutant bees are responsible for air defense. It should be foolproof. After solving the problems of the willow tree and the bees, Wang Feng left them here to protect the wind, and he was busy collecting various supplies. Now the entire mother planet is preparing for the endless road, whether it is personnel training or material storage, all are in progress. And Wang Feng needs to continuously collect the materials stored in various places into the apocalypse space. Other materials can be collected together at the end, but foods such as grain and meat need Wang Feng to collect them in time, especially those meats that have been slaughtered and cleaned. They can only be stored for a long time in Xianyuan space. Because there is no time law in Xianyuan space, those meats will not deteriorate no matter how long they are stored. Just as Wang Feng and his team were doing their best to prepare, time passed quickly, and soon, the 20-year deadline had entered the last year. Because no one knew whether this time would be calculated from the day Wang Feng left the land of divine punishment, therefore, at the beginning of this year, all human beings were ready to enter the endless road. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1034. Madman. When the hell are we going to be teleported in? There's a countdown to the Olympics and something like that. For such a big thing like ours, it doesn't matter if there's no countdown. We're not even given an accurate time. Isn't that too unprofessional? In the main square of the Renaissance Alliance, Tang Haoshan couldn't help but complain to Wang Feng, because they had been waiting for nearly half a year, and nothing happened. Because he didn't know how he was teleported, what form he would appear in when he teleported to the Endless Road, and whether he would encounter enemies immediately. Therefore, when he had just entered his 20th year, Wang Feng and the others have gathered all the human race together and are waiting to enter the Endless Road on the continent where the Renaissance Alliance is located. Who would have thought that this wait lasted for more than 5 months without any movement at all, and because they were preparing to enter the Endless Road, everyone was almost in a state of nervousness. Therefore, in the past 6 months, all human beings had a terrible time. It's quite uncomfortable. After hearing Tang Haoshan's words, before Wang Feng could answer, the Martian trio intervened first. Mars was the first to speculate. Brother Tang. I think, maybe the time has come a long time ago, but those grandsons are busy fighting the landlords, so they forgot about us. In Martian's words, there was no respect for those mysterious creatures at all, but still, no one could stand it after having people wait for nearly half a year. That's billions of people. All gathered together, this eating and drinking person is in trouble. In the past 20 years, the remaining human race has totaled a total of just over 4.2 billion. Of course, there were originally more than these, but after going through the waves, only these 4.2 billion people can finally enter the Endless Road. The rest of the people were eliminated for various reasons, and in this special period, elimination only represents one outcome, which is death. However, not all of these people were killed by Lu Feng's law enforcement team. Most of them suffered from mental breakdown and self-destruction because they could not pass the training and could not withstand the huge psychological pressure. Especially in the first year after receiving the news, the number of suicides in the entire mother planet reached 300 million. This is a quite terrifying number. Later, as time went by, the number of suicides decreased year by year. In the last 5 years, there was no case of suicide. Of course, no one was punished for making mistakes. After all, those who have survived such a long buffer period have basically adapted to the upcoming test. Moreover, in the second year after learning the news about the Endless Road, no more newborns were born on the mother planet. Although Wang Feng and the others did not make any restrictions in this regard, almost everyone knew that this definitely not a good time to breed. Taking a child into the Endless Road is not only a drag on the entire human race, but also cruel to that child. Just like when the end of Atlantis came, the fate of most children was very miserable. Without food, it was okay. They often even became food for others. However, although the population on the home planet has decreased by nearly 1/3, it is still a huge burden for Wang Feng and the others. No matter how big the willow tree is, it may be able to protect 4.2 billion people. Wang Feng once calculated that if the willow tree were to change its shape specifically to hide people, it would be able to hide at most hundreds of millions of people, and the people inside would still be like the subway during rush hour, and they would wait for someone to come out the back door. The kind that can squeeze out the driver at the front of the subway. This still depends on the willow tree having enough height, one layer on top of another, just like the way corn stands on end, to be able to barely hide it. However, compared with the population base of 4.2 billion, a few 100 million people is undoubtedly a drop in the bucket. If all the people outside are killed, then of course the people inside the willow tree will also be wiped out. Fortunately, the willow tree is no longer the only trump card of the human race. In the past 10 years, the human race has spent almost all its resources, gathering all the metals that can be found on the home planet, and building a steel fortress. This steel fortress, it covers an area larger than any city on the home planet, and is full of defense facilities. It can be regarded as a weapon built by the human race for the Endless Road, and it was just completed last year. In order to allow the steel fortress they built to accommodate as many humans as possible, even the buildings on the home planet were demolished by them, and all the metal inside was taken out and resmelted. Anyway, if they failed in the endless tower, they can't come back either, so naturally everything on their home planet has nothing to do with them. Crazy mining and collection, without any scruples, allowed this supergiant steel fortress that can accommodate more than 3 billion people to be successfully built. Due to precise calculations, the willow tree and the steel fortress, combined, can completely accommodate all the human races. What Wang Feng imagined was that the steel fortress was used for defense, and the mutated willow tree was used for offense. Due to the limitation of life energy, among the 4.2 billion people in the human race, only 1.8 billion people have reached the level of enhancer or above, and among them, only 300 million have reached the level of evolver or above, and these 300 million people are the main fighting force on the road. The other 1.5 billion enhancers are used to guard the steel fortress. They will be the last line of defense for the more than 2 billion ordinary people. Of course, it is also because of Wang Feng's Xianyuan space that the steel fortress was born. Otherwise, they would not gather the strength of the entire clan and all the metals on the 2 planets to build this epic supergiant steel fortress. Although they saw that when the Cosmic Ghost clan was teleported, even their buildings and even the walls were teleported away, they were the attacking party, but they were not sure that they would receive the same treatment. This giant fortress embodies the strongest wisdom of the human race, the most advanced technology, the most unreserved efforts, and their last hope. When the fortress was completed, all the human race cheered and jumped excitedly, rushing into this most successful work that they worked hard to create day and night, running around like crazy. Especially those ordinary people who did not get enhanced, they all had tears in their eyes, because this fortress gave them hope of life and let them know that they would not be ruthlessly abandoned by their own people at the last moment. Because if it weren't for them, this fortress wouldn't have to be built so big, even a quarter or a fifth of the current size would be enough, and in that case, the defense of this fortress would be doubled. It is precisely because of this that the most serious people in the construction of the fortress are the ordinary people, and there are even people who died of exhaustion because of building this fortress. When the fortress was successfully put away by Wang Feng, the ordinary people finally settled down and began to make other preparations, but the anxiety and uneasiness in their hearts before have now completely disappeared. In the last 5 years, Wang Feng and the warriors above 300 million evolutionists did not participate in the construction of the fortress. They were busy cooperating with the mutant willow and mutant beehive, and developed dozens of different tactics to ensure that no matter what kind of enemy appeared, they could deal with it with ease. As for the space battleship, it is their last trump card. They will not use it unless it is a critical moment, because Wang Feng's life energy reserves are not much now. The promotion of the 1.5 billion enhancers and nearly 200 million evolvers has consumed too much of Wang Feng's life energy. In order to plunder life energy, except for the human race, all other animals on the mother planet have basically been extinct. Although Wang Feng and his people do not want to do this, they have no choice for their own survival. Wang Feng even spent more than 3 years to take people back to Atlantis and hunt all the marine creatures there, just to plunder life energy. In addition, they did not let go of the metal on Atlantis, but due to time constraints, they did not demolish the buildings of Atlantis. After tossing back and forth, the available materials of the 2 planets were gathered, and the entire human race finally completed all preparations, but they did not wait until they entered the endless road, and waiting was the most tormenting. Just like death, death itself is not scary, because you are already dead and have no feelings. What is scary is the time of waiting for death. When the fear of the unknown fills your heart and the despair of life shrouds you, it is the darkest moment of your life. And now, Wang Feng and his friends are in the same mood as waiting for death. Even Duan Lei seems a little impatient, not to mention Wang Feng. If it weren't for the Mars trio always making jokes on the side, someone might have exploded long ago. Even now, what Mars said was actually to make the surrounding atmosphere seem less dull. Fighting the landlord, I doubt if those grandsons can fight the landlord. Hearing Mars' words, Hao Shui of course wanted to join in, so he immediately took over, and Li Fei was about to speak when he suddenly felt as if there was a light coming from the sky. Before he could look up, a white light descended, covering all the human race. This white light came suddenly and disappeared suddenly. Just 3 seconds after covering all the human beings, this white light suddenly disappeared, and with it, all the human beings on the mother planet disappeared, leaving only the ruins of the demolished city, showing that this planet was once inhabited by creatures. The Endless Road, officially opened. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1035. After being shrouded in white light, even Wang Feng's heavenly eye could not see in the white light. When he regained his sight again, Wang Feng couldn't help but be shocked. He found that he was actually alone in a very strange space. This space has a radius of about 10 kilometers. It looks like a small island. The island has picturesque vegetation, shady green willows and mountains and rivers. Birds are jumping and chirping between the trees, and bees and butterflies are flying among the flowers. It is actually a small island. Like a fairyland. Outside the island, there is an endless ocean. Even with Wang Feng's eyes, he can't see the end. It seems that there is only this small island in the world. In the center of the island, there is a manor surrounded by streams. In the light mist, it looks quiet and elegant. The door of the manor is wide open. Looking from the door, there is a man in white robe in an exquisite pavilion. Sitting on the stone table in the pavilion, drinking tea. Seeing Wang Feng looking at him, the man in white robe waved to Wang Feng, motioning for him to come over. Wang Feng hesitated for a moment, then walked towards the small pavilion. He came to this unknown place and separated from Duan Lei and others. At least he wanted to find out what the situation was. If this is the endless road, then where are Duan Lei and the others? Could it be that I am the only one who has to navigate the endless road? If this is the case, Wang Feng feels good. At least in this way, he can have no scruples and no longer have to think about protecting those ordinary people. And when he saw this space, Wang Feng sensed his body for the first time and found nothing strange. The Xianyuan sword and the items in Xianyuan space were all there, and nothing was missing. When Wang Feng entered the pavilion, the man in white robe poured a cup of tea and pushed it in front of Wang Feng, smiling and saying, "Sit down. This tea is not bad." Wang Feng looked at the man in white robe, then sat down simply, picked up the tea and drank it in one gulp. Although the tea was boiling hot, for Wang Feng, he didn't need to care. After putting down the teacup, Wang Feng looked at the man in white robe, but did not speak. He knew that his coming to this mysterious place must be related to this man in white robe. Therefore, the man in white robe must have something to tell him. This man in white robe also has waist-length hair, and he is just a young man who looks to be in his 30s. He has a delicate face, deep eyes, and a very peaceful expression. However, before the man in white robe could speak, Wang Feng suddenly felt that the tea he had just drank turned into a stream of heat and quickly spread throughout his body, making Wang Feng feel an indescribable feeling of comfort all over his body. This is... Wang Feng looked at the man in white robe with some surprise. "Ha ha! Are you wondering why you came here? And where is this place? Who am I?" The man in white robe chuckled, but did not mention the tea. Wang Feng nodded. Since the man in white robe didn't want to talk about the tea, forget it. The most important thing was to find out where this place was, and the tea was obviously harmless and beneficial to him. "This is the controller's space, and I am the controller of our universe," the man in white robe said. "As for my name, it's been so long that I've even forgotten it. You already know that the world we live in actually has countless dimensional universes, and every two related universes will have a controller. The sub-universe you visited before and the universe you are in are to connect the universe. And the controller can be replaced. If you can climb to the top of the endless tower this time, then you can succeed me and become the controller. Does this have any necessary connection with me coming here? Hearing the words of the man in white robe, Wang Feng frowned, and then asked. He didn't care about the controller, and he didn't want to be the controller, because it seemed that this controller could only live here alone. Although the scenery here is quite good, it can be said to be a fairyland on Earth, but sitting here drinking tea all the time, forget it, this is definitely not the life Wang Feng longs for. And since this is not an endless road, what about Duan Lei and the others? Have you entered the endless road? You know, all the supplies of the human race are with him, including the space battleship and the steel fortress. Therefore, Wang Feng must join them as soon as possible. Without him, those warriors would not be able to protect all the ordinary people. Certainly. The man in white robe said. He seemed to see Wang Feng's impatience, so he waved his hand briefly, and a two-handed sword appeared in his hand. Wang Feng was shocked when he saw the big sword. Because this two-handed sword is exactly the same as his Xianyuan sword. Then, under Wang Feng's induction, something shocking happened to him, because his Xianyuan sword actually disappeared, and the sword in the white-robed man's hand was his Xianyuan sword. Moreover, the weirdest thing is that the connection between Xianyuan sword and Wang Feng has not been cut off, but Wang Feng is now unable to control Xianyuan sword at all. He tried several times in a row to summon Xianyuan sword back, but Xianyuan sword did not move at all. Reaction. The man in white robe held the Xianyuan sword and looked at it silently for a while, as if he was remembering something. Then he suddenly shook his head and chuckled, wiped the Xianyuan sword with his hand, and then threw the Xianyuan sword to Wang Feng. Okay. Now, you can go to the endless road. After you enter the endless road will also officially open. I wish you good luck. Remember, the more control marks you can collect, the better. Say it. The man in white robe waved his hand, as if he wanted to send Wang Feng into the endless road. Etc. Wang Feng shouted quickly, listening to the meaning of the white-robed man. It seems that as long as he has not entered the endless road will not officially open, which means that Duan Lei and the others will not be in any danger. In this case, I am not in a hurry to leave. I will first inquire about the information from this white-robed man. The man in white robe said that he was the controller, so he should be very clear about the endless road. Besides, Wang Feng didn't know what the control mark he just mentioned was. He had to ask more clearly. After hearing Wang Feng's words, the man in white robe stopped, then looked at Wang Feng and asked. Anything else? This. Wang Feng hesitated for a moment, and then raised his hands to the man in white robe, because he didn't know what kind of etiquette he should show to this man in white robe. I dare to ask, Senior, are you, from my human race? The man in white robe nodded. Yes. I am a human being, but because climbing to the top of the endless tower is a test for those who control it, I cannot help you on the endless road. My ability can only be found in the two connected universes. It appears in the endless road, which is another space, and I can only send you into it. The man in white robe seemed to know what Wang Feng was thinking, so he got straight to the point when he opened his mouth. Senior. In this case, can you tell me some situations in the endless road in advance? In addition, what is the control mark that Senior mentioned before? Where can I get it? Wang Feng asked tentatively. Well. The man in white robe sighed softly and said. The endless road is actually climbing the endless tower. 20 years ago, all races in the main universe have entered the endless tower. Each floor is occupied by one race. They are the gatekeepers. As for how to pass, I think you already know the rules. Every time on the endless road, The order of the various races is different, so, I can't give you any help. As for controlling the mark, as long as you kill all the guards on that layer, it's possible. Get a mark of control. As for which layer of gatekeeper races holds the mark of control, this is also unknown. Even the gatekeeper races themselves don't know. Only by killing them all can we know. If you say that the race you are killing has a mark of control, then, when you kill their last tribesman, you will directly obtain the mark of control. You only need to look at your Xianyuan sword to know this. I just activated the emblem of control. When Wang Feng heard this, he immediately looked towards his Xianyuan sword, and sure enough, he found an emblem on the sword. This emblem is composed of 108 light points, but now these light points are all dim, so this emblem is not eye-catching. If you don't look carefully, you can't see it clearly at all. This is the emblem of the controller. Every time you get a control mark, one of the light spots will light up. It is said that if you can collect all 108 control marks, you can summon, no. Yes, you can become the controller of Hongmeng and become the pinnacle among controllers. The man in white robe said. However, according to my previous controller, among all the controllers of the universe, there has never been a creature that can collect 108 control emblems and completely light up the controller's emblem. Senior. You had a controller before. Hearing the words of the man in white robe, Wang Feng couldn't help but be startled, and then asked. Didn't you say that the endless road I experienced this time was the second endless road? Then where did your previous controller come from? Ha 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 ha. Your question is the same question I asked when I saw the previous controller. The man in white robe suddenly laughed, seeming to remember himself. The endless road I started was the first time, but after the controller teleported me here, what he said was almost the same as what I told you. It's just that he is not a human race. The endless road has indeed only been opened twice, but... You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1036. The man in white robe looked at the sky in the distance, his eyes became very erratic, and his voice became illusory. The two times refer to the era of chaos we are experiencing now, and we don't know how many eras of chaos have existed in this universe of ours. The mysteries of this world, even the controller has too many, it's unknown. Era of chaos. This was the first time Wang Feng heard this term, and it sounded like a unit of time. Kindness. The man in white robe nodded and said. 100 million and 100 million years is an era of chaos. For most living things, an era of chaos can almost represent eternity. Wang Feng was horrified, 100 million or 100 million years. He has only been in this world for more than 30 years. Compared with this number. Senior. If, since when you break into the Endless Tower, you need to collect control marks, and to collect this, you need to slaughter a race and make this race disappear completely, then, when our human race successfully reaches the top after that, wouldn't it be true that our human race is the only one in the entire main universe? Then you, also climbed to the top of the Endless Tower before. How did the other races come here? Since Wang Feng has already started asking, he will simply ask clearly. He. The man in white robe smiled and said. Have you forgotten the sub-universe? The meaning of its existence is actually at this time. When the endless road ends, no matter what the result is, the main universe and the sub-universe will switch. The main universe becomes the sub-universe, and the sub-universe becomes the main universe. The next endless road will also start in a different universe. So, even if all races are exterminated, it doesn't matter. After becoming the sub-universe, the creatures in the main universe will be copied again and reincarnated again. Wang Feng was shocked when he heard the white-robed man's words. He remembered what the Eastern Emperor Tai of the Vice Universe had said to him, and the last prophecy. Whether it is the 8 incomplete prophecies before or the prophecies later completed by Dong Huang Tai of the sub-universe, the last sentence is about entering the world of reincarnation. And the Eastern Emperor Tai of the sub-universe once said to Wang Feng that the Atlantis star of the sub-universe is reincarnation. As for Dong Huang Tai, if combined with the rotation of the white-robed master and vice universes, can it be completely matched? Could it be that the last sentence in the language meant that he would eventually return to the Atlantis star in that sub-universe? But there are also other people on that planet. Dong Huang Tai said that if the same life form appears in the same universe, it will cause chaos in the rules of the universe, or even collapse directly. That Wang Feng is a little unclear now. What will happen to him after the end of the endless road? Could it be that only the human race is left in the main universe, and then it becomes the sub-universe, and what control will he become when he comes here? Who? This ending doesn't seem so wonderful, does it? Ha 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 ha. As if seeing the doubts in Wang Feng's heart, the man in white robe suddenly laughed. Little guy. Don't think so much. I just said that even the controller has no understanding of this world. Alas. The more you know, the more ignorant you will feel. When you become the controller, you will know how I feel now. If Wang Feng asked hesitantly. I have really climbed to the top of the endless tower and have the qualifications to become the controller. Can I choose to give up and not take over your position? Also, if I take over your position, where will you go? The man in white robe was stunned, as if he did not expect Wang Feng to have such an idea. After thinking about it for a while, he shook his head slightly. I don't know. The controller before me was very indifferent to me because he was not from our human race. He just said a few words to me, activated the controller's emblem, and then sent me into the endless road. Let me join my people. After we successfully passed the endless tower, I came here directly. When I arrived here, the previous controller had disappeared, so I can't answer your question. However, if you pass the endless tower and don't want to be the controller, I advise you to give up, because this is impossible. After entering the endless tower, you have only 2 ways, one is failure. Then all races were wiped out. The other way is to successfully climb to the top, and then you will come here. This will also become your territory. And the universe you were in before and the other sub-universe will also become your territory. You can see everything happening above, and you also have the ability to intervene. In fact, in these 2 universes, you are the master and can do whatever you want. Even your body can enter these 2 universes at will. In it, do whatever you want. In my opinion, this kind of treatment should be very good, right? If it weren't for the rules, I would have to open the endless road to let you in. I even want to sit in the position of the controller forever. Are there no restrictions? Wang Feng asked. I mean, even if you want to destroy these 2 universes, is that okay? Of course not. The man in white robe shook his head and said. Although I am the controller, I still need to abide by the rules of heaven and earth. In addition, there are some restrictions. For example, when the cosmic ghosts destroyed the galaxy of the home star, I was watching, but I could not take action to destroy them and save them. The home planet's galaxy? We can't destroy them just to help the human race. The things the controller can do are limited to things that do not change the major historical process. If violated, the consequences are said to be serious, so I haven't tried it. In addition, in fact, you don't have to manage these 2 universes by yourself at all. There will naturally be supervisors to help you manage the universe. In fact, as the controller, you have nothing to do at all. You can go to any of the 2 universes at will. Travel around the planet and do whatever you want. No matter which universe or planet you are in, no one can interfere with you, because you are the one in control, so you have infinite wealth and the strongest strength, and you can enjoy everything you want, whether it is beautiful women or food, or beautiful scenery. The life of a person in control is still very pleasant. Is there anyone else above the controller? Wang Feng asked. To be honest, after listening to the man in white robe, Wang Feng was no longer interested in this controller. Maybe many people would flock to this kind of life, but for Wang Feng, this kind of life is not suitable for Wang Feng. He's not very attractive. Have. The man in white robe nodded firmly. It's the Hongmeng controller I mentioned before, but no creature can reach this height yet. That's not what I asked. Wang Feng shook his head. I mean, are there any creatures above you that can command or manage you? Not this one. The man in white robe shook his head and said. At least I don't know, and I have been a controller for billions or even tens of billions of years, and I have never heard of any creatures above the controller that can manage the controller. And I have never received any tasks or orders. As for the endless road, I only open it when the conditions of the main universe are met and it needs to be opened. Even this, you have to meet those conditions. After that, a message was sent from the endless road, so I did it. Your will can't reach the endless road, right? Does this mean that the endless road is more advanced than the universe we live in? Wang Feng asked again. Perhaps because of their relationship with the human race, and the fact that the controller was unable to help when the human race was in crisis, he felt guilty, so he did not feel bored because of Wang Feng's many questions, and still explained to him carefully. Listen. No. The space level of the endless road is the same as the universe we are in, but it is specially used to test the controller, so the controller cannot impose his will on the endless road. Just like an examination room, even the principal cannot enter directly, give guidance to a candidate, and help him complete the examination. This is a rule set between heaven and earth, and the controller cannot violate it. Actually, the controller has great power. Apart from being unable to change major historical processes, he can do anything else. In fact, I helped you at the beginning of the end of the world, but you don't know it. For example, on the planet Atlantis, after the end of the world, don't you think that the number of mutated insects and various mutated creatures is very small? If at the beginning of the end of the world, the number of mutated insects would be as high as you later thought. When we arrived at Atlantis, the sky was overwhelming. Do you think your hope base could form such a fast formation? Also, you should know that the mutated cat that almost killed you in the first place is powerful, but is there only one cat in that village? Not even a dog. It was I who suppressed the mutations of those poultry and pets, making them almost extinct at the beginning of the end of the world. And I brought all the birds in Atlantis here. Although this has something to do with my liking to eat roasted bird meat, at least it is a great help to you, so that you can be like this rapid development. Because you are going to start an endless road in the end, so these small actions of mine do not destroy the major historical process, but just slightly advance it, so this is within my scope. The man in white robe smiled and said to Wang Feng. Okay, you already know almost everything you should know. The endless road should officially open. I will send you in now. I hope you can perform well in it. There is one last question that I hope you can answer for me. Wang Feng looked at the man in white robe and said. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1037. The man in white robe looked at Wang Feng and nodded gently. You say. The more controller marks, the better. What will happen if I don't get any? Wang Feng asked, staring at the man in white robe. Hearing Wang Feng's words, the man in white robe frowned, then gently shook his head and said. I don't know. This situation has never happened before, because every race that is about to break through will be told by the previous controller that the more imprints of the controller, the better. Therefore, the controllers of the past generations have worked hard to survive in the endless world. Collecting control marks on the road, I haven't gotten any of them, they haven't appeared yet. I can tell you that I originally planned to collect all the control marks. Therefore, when we were on the endless road, we slaughtered all the races guarding the gate. However, in the end, I collected all the control marks. There are only 75 seals, and it is not easy to collect all the control seals. But there is no rule saying that races that break through must collect guardian marks, right? Wang Feng, who heard the man in white robe, asked again. No. The man in white robe nodded affirmatively and said, the conditions for success on the endless road are very clear, that is to climb to the top of the endless tower, there are no other additional conditions. Okay. Thank you. I think, I know. Wang Feng nodded. Remember, don't mention anything you do here to anyone, including anything that brought you here. Otherwise, the human race will be directly judged to have failed and all will be wiped out. Glancing at Wang Feng silently, the man in white robe said solemnly. When I send you to the starting point of the endless road later, you will appear with other human races, so they don't know that you have disappeared for a while. Hearing the words of the man in white robe, Wang Feng felt a chill in his heart and nodded heavily. Then, goodbye. I hope you forget it. I wish you good luck. The man in white robe said softly, and then waved his hand, and Wang Feng disappeared from in front of him. Boy! Your idea, haha. No one has really tried it? When Wang Feng disappeared, the man in white robe looked up at the sky and smiled softly. I'm really looking forward to the results of your breakthrough. After Wang Feng waved his hand at the white-robed man, he appeared directly in a plain surrounded by mountains. It looked very similar to the safe zone in the ancient secret realm. At the same time as Wang Feng appeared, white light shone brightly. Starting, other human races also appeared one after another. When Wang Feng saw this situation, he immediately understood that it seemed that the warning of the man in white robe before he left was indeed true. He really couldn't tell what happened in the controller's space. However, fortunately, the current human race has been fully integrated. Even if Wang Feng's order is not explained, Dong Huangtai and Fuxi will basically not object, not to mention those who hope for the empire. Therefore, the fact that the controller's information cannot be disclosed will have a minimal impact on Endless Road. However, Wang Feng doesn't know now. After they complete the test of climbing to the top of the Endless Tower, what will happen to the rest of the human race? He has no idea, even though he has mentioned it before, but the man in white robe did not give a positive answer. Crazy. What are you thinking about? Duanlei came to Wang Feng and saw him in a daze. He couldn't help but ask, now that the endless road has begun, Wang Feng's state does not seem to be a good phenomenon. Nothing. I was just wondering which race we would encounter first. Wang Feng shook his head and replied. Get ready. Duanlei said. No matter which race we are, we all need to pass the test, but... Duanlei seemed to have thought of something and did not finish his words. Wang Feng's eyes flickered, as if he knew what Duanlei wanted to ask, and he did not continue to ask. Instead, he looked into the distance. At the exit of their area, between two mountains, a large lush forest could be seen, and deep in the forest, a tall tower reaching the sky was standing there, waiting for them. Let's go. Wang Feng said, and then rushed towards the forest over there, and number 7, the instructor, Xiao Wu and Qiu Jian, followed immediately. During this trip to the Endless Tower, the 4 strongest combatants were still exploring the way. Lu Feng and Tang Haoshan followed them with a 50,000 strong Hope Expeditionary Force, and another 50,000 Hope Expeditionary Force. It was led by Gui Weivu and Dai Guo, who stayed at the end of the line. and all the remaining members of the human race are in the middle, guarded by other combatants. Along the way, among the human race, there are still more than half ordinary people, so the speed is not fast. However, fortunately, there does not seem to be a time limit on the endless road, so it does not have a big impact. The endless road that the human race has been preparing for a long time has finally officially begun. Everyone's heart is complicated, with excitement, expectation, fear, worry, and various emotions coming. Along with the human race, they move forward together towards their unknown future. What surprised Wang Feng and the others was that the environment where the Endless Tower was located in front of them seemed to be completely similar to the first time they saw the Endless Tower. They were both in a vast forest. However, in this forest, but no living creatures appeared. Wang Feng and the others entered the forest and reached the bottom of the Endless Tower. They still did not see any living creatures. All the monsters they encountered in the jungle last time had disappeared this time. Seeing the Endless Tower, Wang Feng was startled again. This time the Endless Tower was different from the last time. The diameter of this Endless Tower was only about 1 kilometer. At least from the outside, it seemed impossible to accommodate it. It belongs to everyone in the human race. Moreover, at the bottom of the Endless Tower, there is only a small portal 2 meters high and 1 meter wide. Although it is not a problem for a person to pass through it, the human race has a population of more than 4 billion. If all go from here. Wang Feng came to the front of the door, stretched out his hand, and pressed it on the door. When Wang Feng's hand came into contact with the door, a voice sounded in his mind. The passers-by have arrived at the Endless Tower. The Endless Road trial has officially started. Do you want to start the first level trial immediately? After it is started, all members of the chosen clan will enter the first level of the Endless Tower together and will guard the level. If you kill more than 40% of your race, you can enter the second level. Wang Feng was stunned. It turned out to be like this. It seemed that as long as he agreed to enter, all the humans would appear on the first floor of the Endless Tower. There was no need to pass through this small door one by one. Wang Feng didn't even think about it and answered directly in his heart. Start the trial immediately. Because the human race has already prepared the trial of the Endless Road, there is nothing wrong with starting it now. Anyway, all the materials are in Wang Feng's Xianyuan space. The other human races only bring some personal weapons and food and water to prevent getting separated. What's more, entering directly now can also save ordinary people some effort. It is not a close distance to reach the Endless Tower from where they were just now. It is fine for those who are enhanced or above, but if ordinary people want to walking through the jungle to get here takes a lot of physical energy. Following Wang Feng's choice, the white light lit up again, and Wang Feng disappeared together with the huge human team that was entering the jungle. Has it finally begun? Looking at the scene in front of him, Wang Feng took a deep breath, and then looked at his environment. Their current location was a vast plain. It was not like when they first entered, there would be a circle surrounded by them. A venue surrounded by mountains. In other words, from now on, they will no longer have a safe zone. The Endless Road, this test for the chosen clan and the controller, has finally officially begun. Wang Feng quickly flew up and looked around in the air. He found nothing unusual, so he directly chose a location and released the steel fortress. Then, he also released the mutated willow tree next to the steel fortress. Come out. Seeing the appearance of the steel fortress, the human team immediately began to take action. Except for the 100,000 soldiers of the Hope Expeditionary Force, the rest of the people all entered the steel fortress. They had done countless trainings before, and everyone was in the steel fortress. There are specific positions in the fortress, so even though there are more than 4 billion people, they all get into position very quickly. The shape of the steel fortress is similar to a ring. The bottom of the central part can be opened to expose the land below, because Wang Feng and the others do not know how long they will be delayed on each floor, and this hollow position is used for digging groundwater and used to grow crops. Because it is in the center of the steel fortress, those who plant here can be protected by the steel fortress. This time, the human race is preparing to fight a protracted war. In particular, Wang Feng also learned from the controller that the races guarding each level have been preparing for this level for 20 years. They must be very familiar with the environment here, and the base must have been established. Therefore, the human race must first stabilize and establish a complete defense before considering how to attack. In short, the races here, no matter which race they are definitely their enemies. About 10 hours later, Wang Feng saw that the human race was finally ready. After testing that there was no problem with the communication, he released 1,000 small fighters. The reconnaissance team that had been prepared immediately boarded the fighters, and then all the fighters take off and fly in all directions. There are a total of 10,000 people in this reconnaissance team, all of whom are soldiers from the Hope Expeditionary Force. Every time they enter a new level in the future, they will conduct a reconnaissance first to confirm the race, number, and location of the ethnic groups guarding this level. Then decide how to attack. Report No. 0124. Enemy found. About 5 hours later, a reconnaissance plane returned the message. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1038. Wang Feng, Duan Lei, and others immediately looked at the big screen installed on the steel fortress. They wanted to know which race the human race would encounter first after entering the Endless Tower. This kind of large screen can be found almost everywhere in the steel fortress. In other words, as long as the small fighter plane that detects the enemy sends back the picture, basically everyone in the steel fortress can immediately know the enemy's situation. The enemy's base is at 8 o'clock, about 5,000 kilometers away from us. The race cannot be confirmed. They don't seem to know that we have arrived here. The pilot of the small fighter plane continued to report, and then sent the video of the small fighter plane back. Each of these 1,000 small fighters has 2 soldiers, one is responsible for driving, and the other is responsible for communicating with the base. The 10,000 soldiers of the reconnaissance brigade were divided into 5 squadrons, each with 2,000 people, which corresponded to exactly 1,000 fighter planes. After seeing the scene transmitted back by the reconnaissance fighter, Wang Feng was obviously relieved. The reason why the soldier said that the enemy's race could not be confirmed was not because he did not see the enemy, but because he did not recognize the creatures of this race. Before setting off, those humans who originally belonged to the original star had long shared all the race information they knew. Most races even had detailed information on those races, including temperament, whether they belonged to a technological race or a barbaric race, as well as characteristics and relationships with humans and more. But this race obviously does not belong to the known races of the human race. Therefore, the scout said that it could not be confirmed. But generally speaking, such a race that even the human race does not understand should not be considered a powerful race on the original star, or even ranked in the middle. Although there are nearly 10,000 races on the original star, the human race cannot be all everybody knows. But at least some of the more powerful races, such as the giant race and the winged race, so this race that has not been recorded by the human race should not be very powerful. If you encounter such a race on the first level, you are obviously lucky. But Wang Feng breathed a sigh of relief not because of this. He was just glad that he was not the first to encounter a race that he did not want to encounter. In the Endless Tower, the race that Wang Feng least wants to encounter is naturally the Kali tribe where Killer and the Third Xiao are located. If he meets them, Wang Feng will be in quite a dilemma. After they separated, Wang Feng never saw them again. But Wang Feng knew that this time on the Endless Road, they would definitely meet each other, and they would meet the Killing and Killing Sang Xiao again as enemies. Wang Feng shook his head vigorously. Anyway, this is not them now, so let's ignore it for now. We will talk about the future in the future. First, imagine how to kill the gatekeeper race on this level. The race at this level is a kind of creature that is not tall. They are also humanoid creatures, but they are only about 1 meter tall. From the screen, their bodies are thin and flexible, their skin color is green, their ears are big, and they have it's long and pointed, so it's quite easy to distinguish. Their base is not big, only about 1,000 meters in radius, and the buildings are all low round buildings. At this time, these little men seemed to know nothing about their arrival and were still leisurely there, wandering around in their base. It looks like it shouldn't be difficult to deal with. Wang Feng looked at the screen and said. Besides, they don't seem to have many people. Can this be 10,000? It seems that because of the first level, they found the worst race to guard the gate. But that's right. Generally speaking, the further you go, the harder it gets. Isn't it similar to the levels in the game? Yeah. It should be so. Duanlei also nodded slightly in agreement. At least from the picture, this race seems to be inconspicuous in terms of number and size, and should be easy to deal with. I'll take a group of people over to test it first. If they don't have any back UPS, we'll just kill them. Let's get over this level first and get off to a good start. Wang Feng said easily, although they have never seen this race before, and it can be said that they have no grievances with them, but since they appear here, at least Wang Feng must first meet the conditions for the race to pass this level smoothly, destroy more than 40% of the population of this race. Wang Feng. Be careful. The race on this level should be the goblins. Just when Wang Feng was about to turn around and leave, Dong Huangtai's voice suddenly sounded from the communicator. Goblin tribe. Wang Feng was stunned. Very powerful. It's awesome. Dong Huangtai's voice sounded very solemn. The goblins are a high-tech race. And they are very insidious. Don't be deceived by their superficial camps. Although the humans have not had contact with the goblins due to their geographical location, it is said that they all live underground. If you are going to do a test attack, you'd better be mentally prepared. Their weapons are definitely superior to those of humans. It is said that their most advanced individual combat weapons can even directly threaten space battleships. What? Wang Feng and Duanlei were both shocked. Can individual weapons threaten space battleships? Isn't this a bit exaggerated? Even a small fighter plane with a length of more than 10 meters cannot effectively damage the space battleship before its shield is consumed. The individual weapon held by such a small man can actually damage the space battleship. Threat. That's right. At this time, Fuxi's voice also rang out. In order to stabilize the emotions of ordinary people, Dong Huangtai, Fuxi, Gao's Hixing and others were all in the inner ring of the steel fortress. The goblins, we humans don't have any information on them. It's not that they are not powerful, but that basically no information flows out. However, goblin technology is definitely ranked first in the original star. Although it seems from the picture that they are defenseless against us, they are definitely deceiving us. With the goblin technology, even if they are not notified after we enter, they will definitely be able to detect our arrival. Now they are all pretending to confuse us. I can guarantee that there must be a large number of goblins under their base on the surface, and their real base is also underground. In addition, if there is darkness here, I solemnly remind you not to fight the goblins at night. Hearing that the two giants of the human race, Fu 11 and Dong Huangtai, were so afraid of this goblin clan, Wang Feng and Duanlei looked at each other and became serious. The two giants solemnly warned themselves at the same time, then, this goblin tribe is definitely not simple. Holy crap! I thought the first race was just for us to get used to, but it turned out to be a race that claims to have the best technology in the original star. Wang Feng said depressedly, and then stared at the petite little green men on the screen for a long time. He couldn't see how powerful these little ones could be. Well, I'll take Qiujian, the instructor, and Xiao Wu over first to try it out. Verify it. Then, we'll discuss it later. After Wang Feng thought for a while, he decided to test these little guys first. Okay. Leave this to me. Duan Lei nodded. Wang Feng said no more and said hello directly, and then took out a small fighter plane, carrying Qiujian, the instructor, and Xiao Wu, and flew towards the extreme of the goblin tribe. Pass my order. The hollow area of the steel fortress will not be opened for the time being. Guards will be mobilized to closely monitor the hollow area. Seeing Wang Feng and the others leaving, Duan Lei issued an order directly to the communicator. Since Dong Huangtai and Fuxi value the goblins so much, Duan Lei must be careful. This is just the first floor and must not appear. What a flaw! And since the goblins live underground, they must be quite good at digging underground. The rest of the steel fortress has a defense system underneath. Only the hollow section can be sealed. But the defense is the weakest. After all, that is the center of the steel fortress. I had never thought that any enemy would attack directly from there. Therefore, although there are some defense facilities, they are not that comprehensive. Now that he knows how powerful the goblins are, Duan Lei feels that it is necessary to strengthen the defense underground. Lin Li. Send out all your little guys who know how to drill holes and stand guard under our fortress to prevent goblins from sneaking up from below. Duan Lei thought of Lin Li again. After returning to the primordial star, this guy once again showed his true nature as the Rat King and summoned a group of rats from the boss to serve as his soldiers. Lin Li is now different from what he used to be. Not only has his strength reached level 11, but the upper limit of creatures he can control has also been greatly increased. In addition to the monsters in the Land of God's punishment, Lin Li has also summoned thousands of monsters on the primordial star. Thousands of mice and nearly 1 million birds of all kinds are prepared for reconnaissance or warning. And now, it's naturally time for those mice to show off their power. Lin Li gave an order, and tens of millions of rats dispersed and dug into the underground of the steel fortress. And at Duan Lei's request, their underground warning range was directly expanded to 5 kilometers away from the steel fortress. In addition, Duan Lei also arranged for the flying birds and the bees of the mutated hive to be released in the air for warning. This time, Duan Lei could say that he directly regarded the goblins as an enemy more powerful than the cosmic ghost. This guy is good. Seeing the order issued by Duan Lei, Dong Huangtai nodded lightly and smiled. Yeah. Very stable. Although he is young, he has a mature mentality. He is a very good little guy. At least he is much calmer than Wang Feng. Fuxi also agreed. At this time, Wang Feng and his small fighter planes had arrived over the goblin base. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1039. The small fighter plane responsible for reconnaissance did not appear in the air as solemnly as they did. It flew in a circle and had already left. It was only responsible for reconnaissance. After transmitting the picture back, it continued to move forward. This time, Wang Feng and his team appeared in the sky above the goblin camp. Before approaching here, Wang Feng had already put down the 3 instructors. Now there was only him in the small fighter plane. Even if the small fighter plane was shot down, with the space-based ability of teleportation, which could be called a bug, Wang Feng was sure that he would not be injured. And Wang Feng now pressed the altitude of the small fighter plane very low. Once attacked, Wang Feng could take advantage of the moment when the fighter plane exploded to teleport directly and sneak into the goblin base. Seeing Wang Feng's small fighter plane coming, the goblins in the goblin camp suddenly became a mess, but after Wang Feng tentatively fired a few energy beams, he sighed secretly, these guys were really pretending. These buildings on the ground were just camouflage, because the energy beam fired by Wang Feng caused some damage to the buildings in the goblin camp, but it was limited to the buildings. None of the goblins that seemed to be running around were really killed or injured by him. Although the goblins acted very cleverly when the beam arrived, as if they were killed and injured in an instant, under Wang Feng's eyes, it was clearly seen that when the energy beam hit their bodies, a layer of blue light shield similar to the energy shield of a space battleship would appear on their bodies, directly offsetting the attack of the energy beam. Wang Feng quickly told Duan Lei about his discovery, and then continued to fly the fighter plane over the goblin camp, and continuously fired energy beams, exploding bursts of smoke and dust in the goblin camp. After a while, it seemed that the goblins discovered that the human race had only sent such a small fighter plane this time, and there were no other reinforcements, so they finally began to counter-attack Wang Feng's small fighter plane. Those small green-skinned guys took out a small stick only half a foot long from their bodies, and then aimed it at the small fighter plane in the sky. After a beam of light was emitted, Wang Feng was immediately shocked. The beam of light seemed to be no different from his own small beam of light, but for some reason, Wang Feng actually smelled the breath of death from that beam of light. So, Wang Feng, who originally wanted to wait until the moment the fighter plane exploded and then teleported out, did not dare to wait at all. He teleported directly and left the small fighter plane. And because of the feeling of panic in his heart, Wang Feng did not dare to teleport directly to the goblin camp, but teleported into the air. And just as Wang Feng left, the small fighter plane he had driven before melted directly in the air. That's right. It melted, not exploded. There was no sound, no fire. The small fighter plane, like chocolate encountering fire, melted directly, and in the end, nothing was left. Watching the small fighter plane disappear, Wang Feng was covered in cold sweat. He didn't know what would happen if he had reacted a little slower. At least he was sure that with his current physical strength, he would definitely not be able to resist the weapon of the goblin. And because Wang Feng teleported into the air, he naturally had no way to hide his body. The goblins below immediately discovered him and pointed at Wang Feng in the air and shouted. These goblins didn't want to expose their strength and wanted to reduce the vigilance of the human race. When they attacked, they directly dealt a heavy blow. Therefore, when Wang Feng just appeared, they didn't attack directly, but delayed for a while. Later, they found that except for this small fighter plane, there were no other fighter planes flying towards them, so they directly destroyed Wang Feng's fighter plane. When destroying Wang Feng's fighter plane, the goblins had already turned on the signal interference, so they believed that the scene of their shooting down the human fighter plane would not be seen by the human race, but now they found that a human race had escaped from the fighter plane, and they naturally could not let him go back. So, the goblins below began to take off one by one, and countless holes were opened on the ground, from which small aircraft flew out, or various beam cannons were exposed, ready to kill Wang Feng with all their strength. Because they had decided to leave Wang Feng here, so at this time they had no scruples and directly exposed their ferocious fangs. Seeing this situation, Wang Feng finally understood that he was indeed confused by this group of little guys. If it weren't for the reminder of Dong Huangtai and Fuxi, I'm afraid the human race would suffer a big loss here. According to the situation of the small fighter plane being destroyed just now, if the beam cannons exposed below have such power, then their first wave of attack will definitely be annihilated. At first, Wang Feng was going to bring 10,000 soldiers and drive 10,000 small fighters to attack here. According to the scale of the beam cannons currently exposed below, Wang Feng was almost certain that once these 10,000 small fighters arrived here to launch an attack, everyone except himself who teleported might have to stay here. Damn! How insidious! Wang Feng cursed in his heart, but after thinking about it, he came here to kill. Could he still expect these goblins to be friendly to him? After entering the Endless Tower, the defenders of each floor are the enemies of the human race. No one can change this, even the controller of this universe is powerless. Now the war between the human race and the goblin race is not about justice and evil. Both sides are fighting for survival. If the human race wants to pass this floor, they must kill more than 40% of the goblin population. And if the goblins want to defend this floor, they need to kill 60% of the human race population. Fortunately, the space in this endless tower is vast, and there should be no restrictions on the goblin base. Otherwise, if they can grasp the location of the human race and make arrangements in advance, I am afraid that the human race will suffer heavy losses as soon as they arrive. At this time, the goblins have launched a full-scale attack on Wang Feng. They seem to have seen that this human should be extraordinary. Being able to escape from the previous small fighter plane is enough to make the goblins pay great attention to Wang Feng. They don't believe that all humans are like this. Although the chosen ones should be stronger, they won't be so outrageous. So the number of people with the strength of this human in the sky will never exceed 3 digits. Since this human is so important, whether it is to avoid exposing their strength or to weaken the power of humans, they must kill this human. Countless energy beams shot at Wang Feng, and a large group of goblins took off and surrounded Wang Feng together. The individual strength of these goblins should not be high. At least Wang Feng felt that they were only at the level of enhancers, and not many of them even reached the level of evolvers. It seems that the goblins rely mainly on their powerful technology. Even their ability to fly depends on small personal aircraft, but these goblins fly quite flexibly in the air and at a very fast speed. At the same time, the weapons in their hands frequently fired at Wang Feng. In an instant, Wang Feng became the target of the goblins' concentrated fire. Fortunately, Wang Feng had the ability to teleport, so he could still cope with it temporarily. At the same time, he also warned Xu Jian and others in the communicator. "Be careful, the 3 of you. There are traps in the goblin camp, don't enter." When Wang Feng teleported before, he had wanted to sneak into the goblin camp, but at the moment of teleportation, Wang Feng suddenly felt a palpitation, as if there was some terrible trap waiting for him below, so he changed his mind temporarily and flew into the air, which was why he was exposed. However, Wang Feng's warning did not receive any response, because the goblins turned on the signal interference just before launching an attack on the small fighter, and Wang Feng could not contact anyone at all. Even Duan Lei and others did not know Wang Feng's situation at this time. They only saw the goblins running around on the ground before, because at that time the goblins wanted to lure more human races to attack. If more human race fighters took off from the human race base and headed towards the goblin camp at that time, perhaps these goblins could continue to perform like this for a few hours until the human race fighters arrived. Unfortunately, the human race has not had any fighter planes take off, because all the fighter planes and space battleships are here with Wang Feng. It's not that he doesn't want to leave the fighter planes in the Iron Fortress. But when designing the Iron Fortress, because it has to accommodate more than 4 billion people and resources and time are limited, it is impossible to leave too many places for parking small fighter planes in the Iron Castle. Now there are only 10,000 small fighter planes in the Iron Castle, and the rest are all here with Wang Feng. Anyway, this endless road was originally a trial for the controller. If Wang Feng died, it would probably be directly judged as a failure, and the human race would naturally be wiped out. Although this rule may not be fair to other human races, there is no absolute fairness in this world. The message sent did not receive a response. Wang Feng knew that it must be the goblins who were making trouble, but now there is no other way. Wang Feng directly showed his Xianyuan sword and prepared to kill a few goblins first. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1040. Wang Feng teleported once, dodging dozens of energy beams attacking him, then glanced at the goblins flying in the air, then teleported again, summoned his Xianyuan sword, and began his first killing after entering the endless tower. Although he couldn't contact the instructors, Wang Feng was not particularly worried. Although they approached the goblin camp from the ground, and there must be traps in the goblin camp, the three of them were guys with rich combat experience, and their intuition about danger was not much worse than his own. So Wang Feng was relieved and devoted himself to his own battle. In fact, Wang Feng himself was not relaxed now. The energy beams in the sky were all targeting him, and the speed of the energy beams was very fast. If he didn't have the ability to teleport, he would have fallen here long ago. After summoning the Xianyuan sword, Wang Feng thought about it, and finally flew higher into the sky. He didn't choose close combat because he didn't know what the personalities of these goblins were like. In the hands of each goblin, there was a weapon that had just destroyed his small fighter. If he launched an attack at close range, then, if he encountered a goblin who was not afraid of death and was willing to die with him, ignoring his attack and directly firing an energy beam at him. At such a close distance, Wang Feng might not even have the chance to launch a teleport, so Wang Feng did not dare to take the risk. And the higher he flew, the less threat the beam cannons on the ground posed to him. The only ones left were the goblins who flew up with aircraft, and of course, some unmanned small aircraft. Wang Feng did not launch an attack for the time being, but just flew upwards, and the goblins seemed to have received a killing order and had to kill Wang Feng, so they all chased him closely below, and fired energy beams at Wang Feng desperately as if they were free. Seeing that he had left the attack range of the beam cannon, Wang Feng was finally ready to start a counterattack. Those goblins seemed to like to stick together, even in the air, they were all gathered together, which greatly facilitated Wang Feng's attack. Wang Feng saw the right moment, and after teleporting to avoid a wave of energy beams, he switched the form of the Xianyuan sword in his hand, and then fired 6 white arrows at the goblins. The goblins were shocked, because Wang Feng had been holding the Xianyuan sword before, and they had never thought that this weapon could switch forms. However, the goblins' flying machines were indeed quite outstanding, and even at this time, they were still able to dodge Wang Feng's arrows. Only 2 of the 6 arrows with ice energy hit the target and shot at the chests of the 2 goblins. However, these 2 arrows did not cause any damage to the 2 goblins, because when the arrows hit the 2 goblins, they were directly offset by the light blue light shield that appeared on the 2 goblins. The goblins breathed a sigh of relief and continued to attack Wang Feng, and Wang Feng continued to shoot arrows, but still had no success. However, Wang Feng was not discouraged at all, and continued to deal with the goblins, and continued to shoot arrows, but the target turned to those small aircraft. These aircraft were not protected by energy shields, so they were constantly shot down under Wang Feng's shooting, so the goblins began to withdraw all the small aircraft, and more goblins came from below and joined the battle. In just about half an hour, 30,000 to 40,000 goblins had gathered in the air. They attacked Wang Feng recklessly in the air. Although there were many goblins, it was completely impossible for Wang Feng to cause them to kill each other like he did with the cosmic ghosts before. Moreover, when these goblins shoot, they are not afraid of accidental injuries. Even if Wang Feng teleports to the middle of them, the goblins in other directions will continue to attack with fear, because the energy shields on their bodies can resist the energy beams they emit, and it seems that this energy beam will not only not consume their shields, but will replenish their energy shields. Damn! So perverted! Wang Feng cursed, but there was no frustration on his face. Although Wang Feng has not really killed a goblin in the battle until now, he has consumed a lot of life energy because of constant teleportation and firing a large number of arrows condensed by ice energy, but the goblins will never think that all this is just a trap set by Wang Feng. The purpose is to kill more of these insidious and cunning green-skinned little guys. So far, all the arrows fired by Wang Feng are arrows condensed with ice energy. This kind of pure energy attack will of course be blocked by the goblins' energy shields, so that it cannot work. Moreover, Wang Feng could only shoot about 10 arrows at most each time, which was far from the limit he could reach. Wang Feng, who had already reached the peak of level 11, could shoot thousands of arrows in an instant when he launched the extreme state of Gale. Only the Bao transformed from Xianyuan sword could meet his abnormal usage rate. If he used another Bao, it would probably be useless in less than a second. Therefore, when Wang Feng launches his extreme attack, his attack frequency is even higher than that of any automatic weapon. However, only Wang Feng can achieve this state. Because the feather arrow is in his Xianyuan space, it can appear in his hand with Wang Feng's thoughts, and the Xianyuan Bao has been completely integrated with him, so this effect can be achieved. And now Wang Feng's flight trajectory is also very particular. He is trying his best to attract the goblins to gather together. Although he has exposed the secret that his weapon can attack remotely before, because the arrows shot are completely ineffective against the goblins' energy shields, the goblins gradually lower their vigilance. Especially now, Wang Feng is still shooting arrows condensed by ice energy, and he looks quite angry, as if he is annoyed that his attack is not effective, which makes the goblins relax their vigilance. Finally, after teleporting twice in a row and dodging the attack of a large number of energy beams, Wang Feng's eyes flashed with brilliance, and then he acted as if he was going to fight to the death, and suddenly shouted loudly, then raised the ferocious giant Bao in his hand, and fired a rain of arrows at the goblins. At this time, the expression on Wang Feng's face seemed to be a little desperate, so when the goblins on the opposite side heard Wang Feng's shout, they were all stunned at the same time, and then they were all overjoyed. Looking at Wang Feng's expression, this is going to fight to the death. It seems that after such a long time of consumption, the energy of this human has finally been exhausted. Now, it should be the last life-threatening blow of this human race. Looking at the rain of arrows, the goblins were a little surprised that the number of arrows this time seemed a little too much, and the color was no longer white, but this might be because this human no longer had so much physical strength, and there were too many arrows shot this time, so the energy could not reach that high, so the color changed. Moreover, since this wave of arrow rain covered a large area and was extremely fast, it was possible to dodge it by force, but there were so many goblins that they didn't know when they all gathered together without even noticing it. If they tried their best to dodge at this time, they might collide with other members of the same tribe. Although they would not die, they would always be injured, and that would be a bit embarrassing. Besides, the white feather arrows with strong life fluctuations before could not hurt them. Could this kind of arrow with basically no energy fluctuations on it break their energy shield? With this idea in mind, the goblins did not dodge, but stared at Wang Feng, fearing that he would teleport away in the chaos after launching this attack. The goblins received a death order. No matter what, this human must be kept. It would be best if he could be caught alive. If he could not be caught alive, he must be killed. He must not be allowed to go back alive and reveal the situation in his camp to other human races. Therefore, the goblins all thought that Wang Feng wanted to make a last-ditch effort, or wanted to use the last bit of energy to create a powerful attack and take the opportunity to escape, so they did not choose to dodge, and even ignored the rain of arrows shot at them, but stared at Wang Feng, ready to continue to kill this human after their energy shield blocked the rain of arrows and completely kill him. However, these goblins did not expect that the arrows shot by Wang Feng this time were ordinary arrows, and there was not even a trace of ice energy attached. When Wang Feng first drove a small fighter to attack these goblins, he found that they had that layer of energy shield on them, especially after using the arrows condensed by ice energy to shoot. He was more certain that this layer of energy shield was a kind of defensive energy similar to the energy shield on the space battleship. This kind of shield technology, the human race and the space ghosts could not even install it on small fighters, and the goblins actually used them on their own people. The powerful technology is indeed powerful enough to be called the top of the original star. However, it was only an energy shield, just like a space battleship could not defend against a direct hit by a fighter plane. Could the energy shields on these goblins be able to resist his ordinary feather arrows? This kind of pure physical attack should only be resisted by physical armor. Shields don't seem to have this ability. After shooting the first wave of arrows, Wang Fen did not stop, and looked at the goblins nervously, waiting for the final result.